I had always believed that love should be pure, untainted by financial gain. But at that moment, my world shifted. I could feel the weight of my family's past struggles pressing down on me, those days of barely scraping by, when we teetered on the edge of financial ruin. I was young, not fully aware of the gravity of it all, but I knew enough to grasp the sense of uncertainty that hung in the air. My father had made a gamble, a risky loan that put everything we had on the line. Our home, his grandfather's house, was the only collateral we had. It was a desperate bet that somehow, against all odds, allowed my father to launch his business. The beginning was rough, but as the years passed, everything started to turn around. In hindsight, I am deeply grateful that I wasn't born into wealth, as it grounded me. It taught me the value of hard work, the true kind of wealth. While my father's success wasn't handed to him, his resilience built something from nothing, and that journey fueled my own ambitions. I wanted to contribute, to add value to what he had worked so hard for. So, despite the whispers of nepotism, I knew that I wasn't just riding on his coattails. I worked hard. I earned my place. And as the family business flourished, so did I. My personal finances were secure now, but I never lost sight of the struggle we had endured. Money was no longer a source of stress, but it was still something I handled with caution. I'd seen too much to be careless with it. Relationships, however, were a different matter. How could I know who was there for me and not my bank account? It felt like an insurmountable challenge. After all, what kind of person wouldn't be drawn to wealth? In my 20s, I dated. A lot. But most of those relationships didn't even make it past the first date. Maybe a few ventured into the second or third, but I could count those on one hand. I wasn't looking for just anyone. I needed someone who saw me for me, not for what I could provide. Then, about 2.5 years ago, I met Brianna. She was breathtaking. That smile of hers, it was magnetic. I couldn't resist, and I had to introduce myself. She told me she was a nurse, and that made her even more appealing. I admired her profession deeply, and I was immediately drawn to her kind heart. I asked for her number right then and there, and we began talking. But even though the attraction was undeniable, I was still cautious. I've always approached relationships with the intention of going the distance. I wanted to see if I could envision a future with her before diving in too deep. My money was always a consideration, not because I thought it would influence the relationship, but because I knew it could. I wanted to ensure that it wasn't the only reason someone would be with me. Brianna was different. She was everything I had hoped for, intelligent, witty, and incredibly easy to talk to. I never saw any signs of gold-digging behavior. 2 years and a few months later, I proposed. Her yes filled me with a joy I could never have anticipated. She was going to be my wife. But the path to that moment wasn't without its bumps. One particular conversation left a lingering bitterness in my mind. It wasn't even about us, it was about the prenup. I thought it was a simple and practical discussion to have, especially given my financial background. I wanted to protect what my family had built, but Brianna didn't see it that way. She was furious. To her, it felt like I didn't believe in our future together, like I doubted our ability to make it work. And perhaps worst of all, it seemed like I didn't trust her. The thought that I would consider her a threat in the event things didn't work out crushed her. We argued for hours, the tension thick between us. That night, I caved. I decided not to push the issue. I let it go because I loved her too much to let something like that tear us apart. Things settled down after that, and we resumed our plans for the future. But it wasn't long before another incident tested my trust. Brianna had invited me to a barbecue with her colleagues, and I saw it as the perfect opportunity to get to know the people she worked with. She'd often mentioned them in passing, so I thought it would be nice to meet them in person. The evening started off well. Everyone was friendly, the conversation flowed easily, and I found myself enjoying the company of the nurses. At one point, I stepped outside to chat with some of the men about sports. Brianna, as expected, was inside with the other women, laughing and chatting away. I didn't think anything of it at first. But after a while, I needed to use the bathroom. I made my way toward the back of the house, taking a route that led through a hallway. The back door was tucked away, hidden from the living room until you rounded the corner. That's when I overheard them. My fiancé's voice, loud and clear. The words hit me like a punch in the gut. At first, it was about my clothes. How well I dressed, how expensive I looked. But then it shifted. The conversation veered into more uncomfortable territory, the topic of money. The deeper they dug into it, the more my stomach churned. I didn't need to hear the rest. But I couldn't stop myself. There it was, right before me, everything I feared, exposed. The laughter bubbled up in the background, an almost mocking chorus, as the girls gossiped about how lucky she was to have landed someone with money. The sound of their chirping and giggling felt distant at first, until I heard my fiancé's voice, and the words she said hit me like a punch in the gut. He has a lot of money, and honestly, his money is the best part of him by far. A flood of laughter followed, their voices lifting the weight of her words. She even added, with an almost casual tone, he asked for a prenup. I could feel my stomach tighten as the words sank in. I said no, of course. I have to be able to cash out if things hit the rocks. More laughter. Their voices, so light, so carefree, echoed in my mind like a cruel joke. At that point, I couldn't take it anymore. I turned and left, stepping back out into the cool air, though I didn't need the bathroom anymore. I was numb, every step heavy with the weight of what I had just overheard. We returned home, and I could tell something was off. She noticed, of course, the change in me, my silence, the way I withdrew, but I kept my thoughts to myself. I didn't say a word until she went to bed. The days that followed were a blur. I loved her. She was a good person. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted inside me. Should I just let it slide? Was it just stupid female gossip? Or was this something far deeper, something worth reconsidering everything? Canceling the wedding. Kicking her out of the house. It felt like my mind was at war with my heart. My heart still wanted to believe in the love we had. A few days ago, she had been the perfect woman, the one I was ready to build my life with. But now, it was like everything had changed in an instant. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was more interested in my money than in me. It hurt. But could I just walk away? Was it worth fighting for, or was it over? I didn't have answers. My mind screamed at me to end it. To walk away from someone who clearly valued me for all the wrong reasons. But my heart wanted to talk to her. To give her a chance to explain. Was it possible I was overreacting? I didn't know what to do. And I appreciated any advice. The comments rolled in fast, each one louder than the last. You should have ended things right then and there, they said. Why did you compromise on the prenup? The advice was harsh, yet it stung in a way that felt deserved. I read it all, processing the voices of strangers who didn't know her, didn't know me. Some of it made sense. I should have stood my ground. The prenup wasn't just about me, it was about my father's legacy, his hard work. But now, it felt like a wake-up call. It wasn't just about protecting my assets, it was about understanding what mattered in this relationship. A lot of people said I should cut my losses. End it now. Don't risk it. I wanted to listen. I felt like that was the smart move. But deep down, part of me still wanted to believe in the possibility of us. Could this just be a mistake, a misstep? Was it enough to talk it over again, to lay the cards out on the table and see where it went? It was time to face her. I couldn't keep avoiding it. So, I sat her down a week after that barbecue. We had to talk. I had to bring up the prenup again. I knew how it would go. She flared up just like before, but this time, it was worse. Her voice cracked as she blamed me for not trusting her, for not believing in our future. I tried to shift the conversation, telling her it wasn't just about us, it was about protecting something far bigger. My father's company. But she wouldn't hear it. She was angry, defensive. I asked her flat out, would she marry me if the prenup was non-negotiable? Her response was swift, almost casual. I would strongly reconsider our future together. That was it. The moment I realized I couldn't win her over. I tried to stay calm, but she wasn't ready for the truth. I told her to think back to the barbecue, to the conversation she had with her nurse colleagues. I asked her if she remembered laughing about my money, saying how it was the best part of me, how she couldn't do a prenup with me because she wouldn't win the jackpot if we divorced. Her face changed. It was clear she remembered. But she didn't say anything. Her hands were shaking uncontrollably as she looked at me, speechless. I couldn't hold it in any longer. I started to laugh, not out of humor, but from the sheer absurdity of it all. That's when she broke down. She sobbed, tears streaming down her face, but still, she said nothing about the words she had spoken. At that point, I was done. I told her the wedding wasn't happening. I couldn't go through with it. She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing, mumbling pleas over and over. Her tears, her pleas, they didn't move me. I walked away, locked myself in our room, and went to bed. The next morning, she was there waiting for me. Her eyes were bloodshot, and she looked like she hadn't slept a wink. She clung to me, desperate to explain. She said it was all a joke, that she was just trying to fit into the group, that she didn't mean what she said about my money. Her friends had been a bad influence, she claimed. But it wasn't enough. Not anymore. She promised she would sign the prenup. She said it wouldn't be an issue. But I didn't believe her. I didn't trust her anymore. I took her hand, looked into her eyes, and slowly removed the engagement ring from her finger. I had spent too much on that ring, too much on this relationship, to let it slip through my fingers like this. Her reaction was immediate. She burst into tears again. But it quickly turned to rage. She called me ugly, said I had no charm. She mocked me, insulted me in ways I hadn't expected. And then, the bombshell, she admitted to sleeping with someone else, just because she could. I didn't know if that was true, and at this point, it didn't matter. What mattered was that she had shown her true colors. I started to laugh. But it only made things worse. She started throwing things at me, her fury spilling over. I knew I had to get out. I retreated to the bedroom and locked the door. Hours later, when I finally emerged, she was gone. But the place was trashed. Everything I had worked for, everything we had built, destroyed. I took pictures. I documented everything. I had to. I knew I had made the right decision. And no matter how much it hurt, I was certain that this was the end. After capturing footage from one of the indoor cameras, I couldn't even bring myself to stay in the house any longer. It was utter chaos. I didn't know where to begin with the destruction, so I made the decision to leave and get some rest at a hotel. Honestly, I had no idea how to even start processing what had happened. That's when the idea came to me. This was my chance to have some fun. I pulled up her Facebook page and Instagram, searching for the post where she had announced her engagement. The more I scrolled, the more I plotted. And there it was, the perfect moment to strike. I drafted the message. I hate to inform you that the wedding is off, and I am no longer engaged to Brianna. She admitted to only being with me for my money. When I confronted her about this, she lost her mind and trashed my house. If you have any questions, ask her. I hit send and made sure to reply to every single comment. The response was almost as satisfying as it was cathartic. Brianna hated looking bad in front of people, and watching it unfold made me feel an odd sense of justice. But I didn't stop there. Oh no! I had to make sure the message hit home, so I posted pictures of the destruction she'd left behind. I even added short video clips of her having her tantrum, trashing the house. Each video added a layer to the story that couldn't be ignored. I tagged her family, her friends, and even the hospital where she worked. That one was just for fun. Imagine the gossip among her colleagues. Her parents called me nonstop, but I couldn't bring myself to pick up. It hurt to cut ties with them because they were genuinely kind people, but it was necessary. She, on the other hand, didn't seem to get the message. She called me again and again, and when I finally picked up, her voice was a mix of crying and shouting threats. She screamed about how I had ruined her life by airing her dirty laundry, and how the whole world was now calling her Bee of Tarth because of the video. I'll admit, that part made me laugh a little. The way she cried about how everyone looked at her differently, it was almost poetic. I felt the smallest hint of concern for a moment, though. Her rage didn't seem like the Brianna I knew. The tantrum, the anger, it was different. But I shook it off. I knew, deep down, that she was being dramatic and nothing would come of it. At least, not yet. The next step was calling the event planner. I canceled everything related to the wedding. As heartbreaking as it was, I knew it was the right call. And once that was done, I knew for sure that Brianna and I were done, too. It was final. But here's the best part. I'm taking her to court. I'm demanding compensation for the damage she did to my property. I gave her the chance to do the right thing, just pay up. But she responded with nothing but insults. Fine. I'm happy to make things harder for her, just for fun. She's going to have to hire a lawyer, miss work, and hopefully she'll have to pay for everything she destroyed. Trust me, it was a lot. This is still ongoing, but I have everything I need, proof, recordings, and a lawyer ready to go. There's no way she's slipping out of this one. She'll face the consequences of her actions, and I'm going to make sure of it. Sure, there's still a bit of hurt in my heart. There's a part of me that mourns the future I thought we would have. But I'd rather face the pain now than much deeper hurt later. I'd rather know the truth sooner. And for the record, thank you to everyone who supported me. Your comments on my last post meant a lot, and I'll be reading all of them here. Let me know what you think about how I handled the situation. Oh, and here's a little update for anyone following along. I've been awarded almost $10,000 for the destruction she caused. That includes hotel fees because I couldn't sleep at home and professional cleaning costs because the place was a disaster. The smile on my face? Priceless. There I was, taking money from her after everything. It's like the universe's way of saying, here you go, thanks for dealing with the mess. And let's be real, she should have been the one with the prenup. The moment she brought up the prenup conversation, it was clear she was ready to take control, and when her true colors came out, it became obvious who was in the wrong. What can I say? It was a masterstroke of timing. But you know what? The real kicker is the $10,000 settlement. That's justice served, with a cherry on top. My heart may be recovering, but my wallet? It's doing just fine. What do you think about prenups? What would you have done? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in today. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. See you next time.